So my talk today is going to be on Jupyter, Docker, and Traefik, and a couple other things, but those are the three main talking points. What I'm going to do is we're going to use Jupyter. If you guys haven't seen that or used that before, you'll get to see that. We're going to use Jupyter to run this demo and to execute all our commands. We're going to provision our Docker Swarm Manager. We're going to deploy a registry with a front end. We're going to deploy Traefik for our networking and routing. We're going to deploy Portainer for management and insights. And then we're going to kick off a couple of additional worker nodes to make our swarm a little more badass. And to get started, we've got a repository. If this will open. That is up and available for anybody to check out. I can send out the link afterward. Get my mouse over here. Here we go. All right, so a couple of things. I've set it up. It's called Docker Swarm Local. And the purpose of Docker Swarm Local is to speed up our local development and deployment testing by removing dependencies such as Bamboo, our private registry, and our official swarms. So a couple of prerequisites that you need before running this demo is you need to install Jupyter. There's instructions there. You also need to install the bash kernel for Jupyter. And that's the instructions here. And then to run Jupyter, we just type in Jupyter Notebook from our working directory in command line. So let me open a terminal. If I can get this over here. There we go. And I would blow this up, but we don't need to. We're just going to type in Jupyter Notebook. If I spelled that correctly, and yes, it's PY for Python. So what that does is it kicks off. Now let me just hop back here. It keeps an open session. This is actually running here in the browser, but it's got an open process. So I've got a notebook here that I'm going to go through for the demo here. And so if you haven't used Jupyter, anybody in the room used Jupyter before or seen it before? Oh, quite a few of you. Good. See, yeah. Yeah, I saw it a couple weeks ago at a demo and thought it was pretty cool, so I started to check it out myself. All right, so it allows you to keep notes as well as execute scripts or code. It's primarily for Python, but like I said, I installed the bash kernel, so we're going to be running our bash code in here. And what it does, you're going to see it maintains the history for you. So I'm going to start off. We need to set up a couple of environment variables. We need our user and host. So I'm just going to grab our user. That's me, rjones1. Grab our host. Set up our host. So we're going to set up provision a host called Docker Swarm on our local machine. This line will remove it. I already have it removed, so it's okay. It's gone. It's not there. And then let me zoom in if people need it. Let's see better. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and create our host. So that didn't work. So this step takes a little bit here to create, so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit. This is going to create our virtual machine using Docker Machine, using the VirtualBox driver. The longest step is waiting for an IP. It's got to check against its own network. And this is going to be what we're configuring now. We're going to set up for our manager node. When I get down toward the bottom, we'll kick off additional nodes to be our workers. So you can queue with Jupyter. You can queue up requests. So this request here is still executing. So it's got the asterisk. But I'm going to go ahead and click here and here. These are going to kick off. In the next step, we're going to check our status just to make sure it's running. And then we're going to grab the IP from it and store it in a variable. We're exporting because some of our files have template fields in them. So it's coming up now. So pretty soon we should be able to check the status. And it's running, and we got our IP. So there's a couple things I'm going to do here. I'm going to update my host files, and mine should already be up to date, but you would otherwise add these two lines into yours. I'm going to go ahead and just double check that the IPs match. So what I've put in my host files is I want portainer.docker-swarm.local to route to that IP. So that's the IP of our new swarm manager that we created. So I've got Portainer and a registry domain that we're going to map there. So now I'm going to initialize the swarm. Again, all these variables we set above. So we got our host and our IP. So that's initializing the swarm. That's done. Now we're going to export some Docker variables, and this is going to allow us to execute Docker commands against our new node. And our Docker cert path is Docker. Actually, I could have showed you up here. When it's provisioning it, it's provisioning your machine into your local Docker path. So that's where the certs are deployed within that same path there. So we're going to go ahead and set these variables. Next, the registry that we're going to deploy is going to be unauthenticated. So it's an insecure registry. So we just need to put in a configuration to allow our node to trust the insecure registry. So we just need to put in the file. That's going to write the file, copy it over, and then I got a step here just to cat it out and make sure that it wrote over correctly. So you got to port 5000 is the default registry port. It's pretty standard to keep that. So that's there. We're set up. Now the last step here is to restart Docker to take the configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and kick that off. It's fast and done. So Docker daemon is back running. So now we're ready to deploy our registry. This is going to be our first stack to deploy. And let's go ahead and take a look at our stack file. I've got all of these are available in the repository here. So when we look, it's just a simple registry file in our stack file in our registry. But here it's catted out here. So we're using 3.4 of the Docker Compose versions. This allows a couple of things. Some of the new things is to be able to run start first. So we might be able to demo that at the end. We have a dependency now in here. So we're going to create a network, and it's an external. So we have to make sure we create this. I put some notes in here. We've got to create this registry network first. The service we're going to deploy is the registry, and we're going to use the official registry image version 2. It's going to expose port 5000, and it's running on that proxy network we are dependent upon above. We also are going to create a volume mount. And the purpose of this is to retain data over restarts. So if we restart or redeploy containers, it'll maintain it. Now the catch here is I'm not deploying a network share here, which is ideally what you'd want to do in a development or production environment. This is just local, so we're just going to deploy it on the manager node. And so the role that we're going to run this on is the manager. So we're only going to ever run this container. And that's how I've configured all of these. Is to run anytime there's a mount, we're just going to run it on the manager node because that's the only place we're creating the mount. So we're going to run one replica. That's all we need. We're going to deploy parallelism of 1, delay of 20 seconds, and start first. So what that means is when we deploy a new container, it's going to deploy the new one first, wait till it's up and healthy, and then it's going to tear down the old one. All right. So like I said, we need to create the overlay network. That's done. We're going to create the volume mount, just double check that it was created correctly, and we're going to go ahead and deploy the stack. So it created it. That's just echoing out the URL for it. We can double check the status of it. It's in a running state, which is what we want. It's been running for 2 seconds, and we can confirm that it's returning a HTTP 200. So we've got that. So our registry is deployed. Now we can move on to our next container. And the reason we're doing Traefik next, well, we needed to do the registry first, is our configuration for Traefik is we're going to build out a new image and push that to the registry with some configuration values in it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So our stack, again, 3.4. We have another external network dependency, Traefik net, so we're going to have to create that. Its image, you can see here, is going to be in our new repository, so the IP port 5000 /Traefik is where we're going to put that. So we've got a build in here, and it's just going to build a local files. There's a Docker file in there, so it's in the Traefik. And again, going back over to here, if I jump into Traefik, there's our Docker file there. We're going to expose port 80. the thing about Traefik, who's used Traefik in the room? Anybody? It's a reverse proxy that works well with many backends, including Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, and many others. They support a lot. The application itself is running on port 8080, and we're not actually going to expose that. Traefik's going to handle the routing for us. So after I get this set up, you're going to see we're going to hit /Traefik, and it's going to do the routing for us. And it's going to remap it to port 8080. We're going to listen on this network that we're dependent on, and the volumes we're going to listen on the Docker socket. And jump in below, we'll explain what that's actually doing. So the replicas one, we got some labels here for Traefik. It's on, these are some standard labels that you have to apply when you're working with Traefik. You have a lot of different rules. You can have hosts. We'll get into that below. Just the standard update configuration. So here we're going to create our network that we're dependent on, and then we're going to go and take a look at the build file, or a Docker file. It's pretty basic. We're going to start from the base image of Traefik. And again, in production, you'd put versions here. You'd want to have versions. This is for local, so this is always going to grab the latest. And then we're going to add a custom configuration file. So go to that. Our custom configuration file is just saying that we want to run in Docker Swarm mode and watch. And that's what that Docker socket did is anytime new containers are attached, and if they have the labels in there, Traefik's going to utilize those labels. So it's attaching itself to the Docker socket. We're enabling the dashboard. I'll show you what that is. And we're enabling some recent error statistics. All right, so now we're ready to build. So we're going to run our Docker Compose build on the stack. And this is pulling down the official image, applying our label, tagging it. And you can see here in the tag, this is our registry tag. So now we're ready to push that to our registry. Preparing, sending it to there, and it's done. The step's unnecessary. This is just to demonstrate that we can confirm that it pulls there. This also shows you I'm running a Docker command here, but this is executing the Docker command per those variables above that we did against our manager node. So now we're ready to deploy our stack. This is going to pull it down and deploy it. So first thing is, oh, actually, it's really fast. Sorry, that's done. It's deployed, and we can just verify, because I did the pull up here. Otherwise, you would have seen it. It would have been pulling it down, but I pulled it first. All right, so it's already deployed. It's already running. Says it's been running for 6 seconds. Now, this is misleading because when Traefik comes up, it actually takes a few seconds for it to come up initially, and that's what that start first helps take care of. You don't have to worry about there being the dependency of Traefik being down. So then we can echo this out. This is just curling the Traefik health endpoint, piping into the JQ to format the JSON out here. We can see it just got a status. So we're up and running. Traefik's up and running. So what does that mean? Let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. Here's the Traefik. You can see it's running under our IP. You'll notice the application itself was running under port 8080, but I guess I can't make that. I can do that, but it's not going to make the URL bigger. It's just listening under /Traefik. And what we can see here in the front ends and back ends. Back ends are the actual container that's running, and the container itself is got this port from Docker Swarm, and it's listening under 8080. And so Traefik's mapping any /Traefik to that back end there. So that the front end is just listening under port 80. Everything's going to be listening on all the port 80 traffic's going to go to Traefik, and then Traefik's going to handle the routing to the different backends. I'll leave that open. All right, so we've got Traefik deployed as well, registry and Traefik. So let's give our registry a front end. This one's pretty straightforward. We're just going to have a stack file. We're not going to do any builds and pushes here. So this has got two dependencies. We're going to be dependent on our registry network and our Traefik network. The registry network because it needs to be able to communicate with the registry, and the Traefik network because we're going to deploy this and say that it's the registry.host.local, host being the swarm or Docker-swarm. And this one internally listens on port 80, but again, Traefik's going to handle that routing for us, so there's no publicly exposed ports. The image is the official Docker registry front-end image. We use the registry v2, so this is also the v2. And so let's see. So now this one's just a stack deploy, so let's go ahead and deploy this and check that it's running. It says it's running. And it's a small, lightweight container, so it might already be up and running. It is. So here we are. This is from our host file. This is mapping it to our manager node port, IP. And so we got registry. Oh, that's beautiful. We can browse our repositories, and this did not work. Okay. I think there's a browser cache here. Okay. All right, there we go. Because I've run this earlier today, I should have cleared my Chrome cache. It's been some pages are cached. All right, so here we pushed our traffic, so we can come in here. We can see it was pushed 4 minutes ago. You can come in and see details of that. I didn't give any labels there. But you can see that you can browse your repositories. You could, I think it's also set up to delete. All right, so that's the registry. Let's go on to, next we're going to deploy Portainer. So anybody in the room use Portainer as well, or know what it is? I know some of you have. So Portainer is used for managing Docker Swarm. If you haven't seen it or used it and you're curious about Swarm, you're going to love this, how easy it makes it to work with your containers and orchestration. So take a look at this one real fast. We're going to use the Traefik network. It's going to use the official Portainer image we're not going to build, so we're just going to use that. The network is that Traefik net. Volumes we're going to create. This volume here is going to maintain our Portainer data. This is if you're going to create users. You could set up configuration. There's a lot of configuration you can add. You can add secrets and stuff. So this is just, again, going to retain it if we're going to redeploy containers or restart the VM or anything. So again, with the mounts, this one I'm going to put the constraint, so I want to run this on the manager node. The labels here, Portainer listens on port 9000. It does use, I think it uses WebSockets, so that's why we got the stickiness on here. We're going to have this listen on the Portainer Swarm local, or Docker Swarm local. So let's see. So we're going to make our directory. We said we're going to do Portainer, and go ahead and deploy that. Check the status of it. It says it's running less than a second ago. I can double check now. And again, probably cached, but it also might be taking a second to load up. So while that's loading, let me come over to here. You'll see as well, Traefik's automatically adding these in. This is part of that socket and connections there. If I check our health, you can see that Traefik's trying to handle the routing for us. The container was not up yet when I was hitting it. Let's try it now. There we go. And that's still not right. That was cached. Okay. There we go. So now this is the first time coming into Portainer. You're going to be asked to create a admin account. Did I mistype something? Let's see. It's hard to see from this angle. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to connect it to our local swarm. And you can see the stacks that we've, zoom in again. You can see the stacks that we've got deployed. We've deployed Portainer. I've deployed a registry stack and a Traefik stack. Now the registry stack, if anyone caught it, we deployed 2 services there. So now when I click into the stacks, I can see the services under that stack. So I deployed I deployed them separately, but I put them under the same stack because they really are, you know, in our opinion, they belong together, right? We have a registry and we have the registry web. You can see in here the published ports and lack thereof. So you can see we did not, some of these we did not publish ports, you know, exposing them publicly. So that shows here. If I go into any of the services, you can come in and you can check the service logs. So there's a lot of, if you are getting into Docker Swarm, this is very handy. I don't have to jump into each container and check the logs. All the service logs are aggregated together. So if you have multiple nodes and multiple service, the service on multiple nodes, all the logs are going to be aggregated together. You can see the status of, scroll all the way down, there's the containers, the tasks. So there's one running container. It's on this swarm, so I can check the logs there. Let's see. So let me go ahead and, we're going to configure some worker nodes. This is going to take about a minute for the IPs to run, so I'm going to go ahead and kick off a few of these events. And so this is going to create a couple of workers here. Docker Swarm Worker 1, Docker Swarm Worker 2. And again, I did the removal just in case they were there. Now it's going to create the Worker 1 there. And checking the status, it's going to then create the Worker 2, check its status. Here there's a couple of steps. This is going to list out, this Docker, we're still connected to our Docker manager. And so we're going to execute out and list out the nodes. Then we're going to join our workers. Up here, I grabbed the join node, the join token command. So that's the command to execute and run on the, to have a worker node join the manager. So all I need to do is execute that against the worker 1 and then as well against the worker 2, and those should be joined. So let me go ahead and kick those off as well. And we'll come back to this in a moment. Looks like we got our worker 1, so worker 2 is going to be provisioning. So Portainer itself has a lot of other details. I can jump in here. I can see my current status of the swarm. I've got one node in it currently. Its role is a manager, one CPU, one gigabyte of memory. Those are the defaults that Docker Machine allocates. You can, when you're running your Docker Machine, creating the VMs, you can specify. And if you're running Kafka, for example, I think they recommend that you provision it with at least 4 gigabytes of memory. I don't know how much CPU. They might even be 8 gigabytes of memory for local. So you can configure that, and you could deploy those here. They allow you to do a couple of other things as well. You can deploy stacks. You can grab stacks. These are all open source stacks that are easily available. You can grab single containers. So if I wanted to, I could have deployed the registry from here. I could deploy a MySQL container, a Postgres container, all from right within Portainer. Makes it really easy. Let's go jump back over here. So worker 2 is running. We did a node ls beforehand. We only had the one. We joined the nodes, and now the node ls ran again. And now you see we've got three nodes in our swarm. If I jump back over in here, check our swarm, we've got our 3 nodes. Let me go ahead and jump to this in a separate tab. And this is a visualizer. So when we configured our swarm originally, we only had the manager node and we only had the containers running there. So let me go ahead and go to one of the services, and let's scale up our registry web. Let's say we want 3 containers now. And we can jump in there. And we can check and see it's bringing it up. I wish there was a refresh down here. We can also go into our cluster visualizer. You can see those have been brought up now. They're both green. They're running. And Swarm has automatically allocated those. New containers are going to be distributed to the least load, or least, I mean, it has its own algorithms. So you can actually specify different things. I think the default is it might be least number of containers deployed to. So that's it. That's my big presentation. This is all running local right now. And that's why my fan's starting to spin a bit. Yeah, so if I jump over to here, I can zoom this in. Oh, this is that. So if I do my Docker Machine ls, these are the nodes that I've spun up. So I've spun up the Docker Swarm Worker 1, and Docker Swarm Worker 2. Those are what have all been running Docker Swarm. And yes, again, all that's available here. The API project's available for any logged in users, so anybody can go in there and grab this out and check it out if they want.